In this video, I'm going to talk about two dividend growth ETFs that I think are a powerful combination for achieving financial freedom decades earlier than traditional investors. So let's start with SCHD, which is a US dividend equity ETF from Schwab. Now, this chart shows all of the purchases I've made in the past few months. And my primary goal was to buy as many shares as possible under $27. Now, since mid August, because of news or speculation of interest rate cuts in September, SCHD's share price has jumped over $27. Now, my goal for 2025 is to have 7,000 shares of SCHD before the end of the year. In July, I had 3,300 shares, and using my dividend fast-pass strategy, I was able to reach 6,100 shares, or 87% of my goal. Now, looking at this in more detail, my average cost is $26.45. And because I spent the last 2 months developing this position, SCHD is currently overweight in my portfolio. My ideal weight is for SCHD to be 40% or less. And I think this will happen once I start focusing on other dividend ETFs, such as CGDG, which is Capital Group's Dividend Growers ETF. And the reason why this is in my portfolio is because I think it actually complements SCHT. So, in the next part of the video, I'm going to give you some reasons why this is in my portfolio and how it matches well with SCHT. First, CGDG is actively managed, and this enables portfolio managers to be flexible and responsive to market conditions. Now, CGDG's strategy is to provide a combination of income from dividends and long term appreciation. Now, one reason why I think this complements SCHD is it has international exposure, with 30% exposure to Europe and about 16% to Asia. Now, if we look at the sector weighting, you can see that financials is the top sector in this portfolio. Now, I recently watched the Compound podcast, and they had Tom Lee as a guest. And Tom Lee, in the beginning of the podcast, gave his bullish case for the financial sector. And he talked about how the financial sector is going to be re architected, and how, as Wall Street actually gets more interested in blockchain technology and tokenization, that the financial space is going to become a growth space and going to race with the tech sector. Now, when I heard that, I thought, wow, is this going to be another 10-year bull case that Tom Lee's going to be right about? Who knows? But this is one of the big reasons why I like CGTG. Now, the other reason is this has a lot more exposure to tech than SCHD does. Now, if we look at the top holdings, you can see that it has a lot of tech in it with Broadcom and TSM. And some things that it has that SCHD doesn't is exposure to REITs. And there's Vici as well as a healthcare REIT from Welltower. Now, looking at the performance, I was curious to see how CGDG performed against other popular dividend ETFs, such as DGRO, FDVV from Fidelity, and VYM from Vanguard. And as you can see from the 6 month return to the year to date to the 1 year return, CGDG actually comes up on top. Now, this fund hasn't been around for more than 2 years, so it still has a lot to prove and how it responds to different market conditions. But so far, it looks pretty good. I was also curious to see how it performs against other higher paying, higher yielding dividend ETFs such as DEVO, JEPQ, and QQQI. And you can see that more or less, looking at the 6 month return, it kind of keeps pace and the year to date return keeps pace. But once you go out longer, you can see that JEPQ and QQQI are clear winners. However, if Tom Lee is right, and the tech or the financial sector really takes off, I think CGDG could actually outperform JEPQ and QQQI in the next few years. Now, again, I'm not a fortune teller, but that's just my hunch, and we'll have to see what happens in the next few months. But for now, CGDG is in my portfolio, and it's a developing holding. And as you can see, my 2025 goal is to have 500 shares of CGDG. Now, in August, I was able to acquire 25 shares, and I'm hoping to acquire 25 more in September. So, revisiting my dividend fast pass strategy, I actually achieved my second milestone, which is supposed to be year five for traditional investors, but I did it in less than 2 years. Although, according to this dividend fast pass timeline, it's supposed to, or I'm supposed to reach $1 million before year six. I actually might reach it a little bit earlier if market conditions are right and Tom Lee is also right. So who knows? But I'm excited to see where this portfolio goes in the next several months. Well, I hope you got a little bit of value from this video. If you did, like this video and sub if you want to follow the journey. In the next episode, which comes out in late September, I'm going to talk about what 7,000 shares of SCHD paid me, and I'm going to give a little bit more information on why investors shouldn't actually focus on share price appreciation, but really should focus on yield on cost and dividend growth, which is, I think, the main reason why people are in SCHD in the first place. That said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as financial advice. Consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions.